Hey and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's begin with our daily news. Four Champions League clubs now wants to sign a 21-year-old Arsenal player. Arsenal striker Folarin Balogun is expected to be a wanted man this summer, and four Champions League clubs are keen to sign him now. The 21-year-old American was sent out on loan to Stade Reims in France last summer. Everyone expected him to have a good spell there, but nobody saw his stock rise the way it has. Balogun is now expected to leave Arsenal this summer, and the competition for his signature is fierce, with five foreign clubs interested in his services, reports The Athletic. Folarin Balogun has had a sensational season on loan at Reims. The 21-year-old Arsenal loanee managed to score 21 goals and provide 3 assists in all competitions this season. He also became the first American in history to score 20 goals in Europe's top 5 leagues in a single campaign. That has made Balogun a wanted man this summer, and the report claims that the five foreign clubs are expected to try and sign him, four of whom will be playing in the Champions League next season. Those clubs are AC Milan, Inter Milan, RB Leipzig, and Marseille, with League One giants Monaco, who could get into the Europa League if results go their way this weekend, are also keen. Adding to the Inter Milan links, Gazzetta dello Sport claimed that Balogun will cost interested clubs around £35 million this summer. In an ideal world, Arsenal would love to keep hold of Folarin Balogun this summer. However, after the extraordinary season he has had, the youngster is reportedly demanding first-team football and isn't willing to go out on loan again. That's why Mikel Arteta will have to sell him this summer, and luckily for Arsenal, there are a number of clubs interested in his services. It will be interesting to see where Balogun will end up this summer, and if Arsenal will try to include a buyback clause when they sell him. Pundit says £27 million player really isn't happy at Arsenal. David Hillier believes that Kieran Tierney genuinely isn't happy at Arsenal. Speaking on the Highbury Squad YouTube channel, the Pundit gave his verdict on the Scottish left-back, and he noted that he doesn't think the defender is happy at all with life at Arsenal. Indeed, Hillier says that Tierney wants to be much close to his family up in Scotland, noting that while the player loves Arsenal, his heart is elsewhere right now, as he really wants to be closer to home. Hillier gave his verdict on the £27 million left-back. He said, "We were talking about disappointment, and I will say there were a couple of players who had the potential to do a lot better this season who didn't. I will say Kieran Tierney. He could have worked harder at being happy. He could have given a bit more. Tierney's situation has nothing to do with playing a different way or adapting his game. I am telling you, the boy is not happy. You can tell a mile off. He wants to be with his family. Truly believe, I can see it in Tierney's face. He loves Arsenal, but his heart is somewhere else. There is a club up there who have just gotten into the Champions League, who aren't far away from where his family is. It's about happy players." Say what you will about professional footballers and their salaries, but it mustn't be easy to be miles away from home if you place a lot of importance on your family ties. Tierney is a very down-to-earth individual, and while the bright lights of London appeal to many young players, the left-back would probably rather be closer to home so he can spend time with his loved ones. As Hillier says, that can lead to unhappiness at Arsenal, and he may well look to move to a club up north this summer, with Newcastle said to be very interested. PSG considering making bid for £30 million Arsenal player. Arsenal face a fight to keep hold of their star midfielder Martin Odegaard, with PSG considering a bid for the Norwegian. Odegaard, who has skippered Arsenal to second this season, has had an exceptional season for the Gunners, but according to the Daily Mail, PSG have been impressed with the form of Odegaard and are making noises internally about signing the midfielder. According to the Mail, PSG have made soundings about a potential move for Odegaard during the summer window. Of course, any hopes PSG have of doing a deal are likely to be quickly shut down. Mikel Arteta is determined to keep Odegaard, and there is a new contract set to be put his way as well. Further, Odegaard is captain of a club on the up and despite the riches on offer in Paris, the project at Arsenal is likely to appeal even more. Arsenal paid just £30 million for Odegaard to make his loan spell permanent. Since then, he's been outstanding for the Gunners and is now a firm favourite inside the Emirates. Some deals just have no chance, and this is surely one of them. Martin Odegaard leaving Arsenal is simply not going to happen this summer, even for a huge money. It's hard to see Arsenal considering selling their best players. Odegaard has been simply superb for the Gunners and will only get better. PSG might have had the rule of the market when it comes to some players, but Odegaard is in the best league in the world, and the French side won't be able to simply pick Odegaard off. Arsenal have a lot going for them right now, and big players are signing new deals. Odegaard will hopefully follow suit, and PSG ultimately will be wasting their time. Mikel Arteta could now sell £45 million Arsenal player this summer. Arsenal could now reportedly sell Thomas Partey in the upcoming summer transfer window. The Gunners are expected to be very active this summer. All eyes will be on incomings, but there are quite a few players Mikel Arteta could offload as well in the coming weeks. The Daily Mail now suggests that Partey, who was magnificent for most parts of the season, could be one of them. Arsenal signed Thomas Partey from Atletico for £45 million in the summer of 2020. The Ghanaian was then viewed as the best midfielder the Gunners had signed since Patrick Vieira over 2 decades ago, and he had all the characteristics to emulate the legendary Frenchman. However, injuries were a real issue for Partey in his first 2 seasons at the club. He missed 33 games in all competitions in those 2 campaigns, which was a real shame. Partey has had much better luck this time around. Fitness issues only kept him out for 4 games this season, and his performances for the Gunners right up until the end of March were magnificent. However, the 29-year-old's form dipped in April, and Mikel Arteta dropped him in the game against Chelsea and against Newcastle and Brighton. He ended the season in an orthodox right-back role, and that may well be the end of his Arsenal career. The report claims that Arsenal are looking to raise funds to pursue their big target this summer, and along with Granit Xhaka, Kieran Tierney and Rob Holding, Partey could be sold too before the start of next season. This would be a huge shock. Arsenal are already short of options in the middle of the park, and Granit Xhaka's imminent departure leaves them even more light in the heart of the midfield. Yes, the Gunners are expected to bring in 2 new midfielders, ideally Declan Rice and Moses Caicedo, but getting rid of an experienced player like Partey ahead of their first season back in the Champions League feels risky. If it was up to us, we would keep Partey, but the report claims there is a chance he could be gone in the coming weeks. Pundit says £70 million player could have a statue outside the Emirates if he joins Arsenal. David Hillier has tipped Declan Rice to become an Arsenal legend if he signs for the club. The Pundit was speaking on the Highbury Squad YouTube channel about Rice potentially joining Arsenal, and he says that the midfielder has the mentality to become a true great at the Emirates. Indeed, Hillier said that he would sign Rice in a heartbeat, claiming that the midfielder has what it takes to forge enough of a legacy at Arsenal to be given a statue outside of the stadium. Hillier made quite the claim about the £70 million player. He said, "We need players who are good enough to have a statue outside the Emirates. We were lucky, me and Kev. We had Tony, Righty and Dennis. We had those there. Those are the players we need, and Declan Rice is one of them. Partey is not one of them. Do you know what I mean? A player like Rice, with that mentality and upbringing, he has the ability to go and be a legend. He can be that player. That's the type of player Arsenal need to target. I would sign him in a heartbeat." Declan Rice is certainly a talented player, but to say that he could get a statue outside of the Emirates is a huge claim. Statues are usually reserved for the best of the best in a club's history, hence why the likes of Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp and Tony Adams are cast in bronze outside of the stadium. If Rice does forge enough of a legacy to earn that accolade, he will undoubtedly be one of the best signings in the club's recent history. But of course, before we start talking about any of that, he actually has to sign for the Gunners. Fabrizio Romano says £70 million player is almost definitely leaving after his linked with Arsenal. Brighton midfielder Moses Caicedo is almost certainly leaving the club this summer amid claims he could be joining Arsenal this summer. Journalist Fabrizio Romano was addressing the futures of Caicedo and his teammates Alexis McAllister on his YouTube channel. Brighton have been one of the most impressive teams in the Premier League this season. Under Roberto De Zerbi, they have played some incredible football that has seen them qualify for Europe for the first time in their history. Unsurprisingly, it's meant that their best performers have been linked with move elsewhere this summer. Alexis McAllister looks set to be heading to Anfield imminently after an incredible campaign that saw him win the World Cup. Moses Caicedo could be leaving Brighton too, with Arsenal still keen on the Ecuadorian after missing out on him in January. Fabrizio Romano has shared his latest information on the £70 million midfielder. He could end up upgrading the Europa League for the Champions League this summer. Speaking about the Brighton pair, Romano said, Roberto De Zerbi has said that McAllister and Caicedo have a very good chance to leave the club. For McAllister, it's 100%. For Caicedo, I would say 90%. From what I understand, when Caicedo signed a new deal at Brighton, there was no release clause, but Roberto De Zerbi promised him that when in January Arsenal approached, he told the player to stay with us until the end of the season and we will sell you in the summer. This was the plan, it was a promise to the player, and so this is very respectful from Roberto De Zerbi. But now it's time to find solutions for Caicedo. Many clubs are interested, Arsenal are still there, many others are keeping an eye on the player. Chelsea have Caicedo on their list. Arsenal fans will be dreaming of a midfield pairing of Caicedo and Declan Rice, with both players potentially leaving their respective clubs. Granit Xhaka is set to move on this season, leaving a space in Mikel Arteta's lineup, with Thomas Partey also struggling to get into the side ahead of Jorginho. An upgrade could be brought in to fill that role too. It's the most obvious place to try and improve a very strong Arsenal side. Moses Caicedo could be a brilliant addition in that department, and Brighton seem resigned to losing their Ecuadorian star. Arsenal could make move for £60 million Englishman alongside Declan Rice. Arsenal are among the teams leading the interest in Leicester City midfielder James Madison ahead of the summer transfer window. Madison is expected to lead an exodus from Leicester following their relegation back to the Championship, and according to the Mirror, Arsenal are one of the leading teams when it comes to keeping an eye on the situation with Madison. According to the Mirror, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Newcastle are the leading contenders as it stands with Madison. However, there is a catch for the Gunners. The Mirror states that their number one target remains Declan Rice, and any move for Madison to join alongside his England teammate will come down to player sales. The majority of Arsenal's budget is set to be splashed on Rice. West Ham want more than £100 million for their skipper. The Gunners could well raise the extra cash for Madison, though around £40 million could be enough, and with the likes of Kieran Tierney and more set to be sold, money could be available. Arsenal are expected to strengthen the ranks this summer after a great season. Granit Xhaka is also set to depart, leaving another hole in midfield. As good as James Madison is and has been for Leicester, you do question where he'd play in this Arsenal side. The England midfielder has been the Foxes' outstanding player for some time now, but he would face a tough task in breaking into this current Arsenal starting 11 and might even end up on the bench. Madison won't want that, especially with a Euros around the corner in 2024. Of course, Arsenal are still a tempting proposition, and now they are back in the Champions League. Madison might just be tempted. I will be uploading daily Arsenal news, so keep your eyes on the channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate your support. Peace out.